Hello everyone, welcome to a new video, and today we're taking a look at a mod called RACS. This mod is a new one that just came recently to the workshop. It is a huge mod that adds a lot of content, more or less the size of Unsung and mods like that. And we'll be taking a look at both the vehicles and weapon systems that it adds to the game. RACS stands for Royal Army Corps of Saharani. As you, if you probably know, Saharani is the place where the Arma 1 conflict has happened, and we have two armies essentially, both the RACS and the SLA. The SLA stands for Saharani Liberation Army, which is the Soviet Warsaw Pact based army, and this RACS is the Western style army. So we'll be taking a look at the RACS for today. And let me just show you what I mean when I say a lot of content. So this right now is all of the content that this mod provides right now as is. So we'll be taking a look at all of these vehicles, a bit of their history, their usage, and a little bit more historical facts maybe about those vehicles, their origins, and stuff like that. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's get to it. Starting off with the light vehicle section, we have several variations of the venerable American Humvee, both in closed variants and open variants for transporting of troops into areas with no enemy activity whatsoever, since these things are not armed or armored in the slightest. Coming into the first armored version of the Humvee. Of course, this is the venerable standard issue version with the M250 cal machine gun on top. This one is another version of that Humvee over there. By the way, that one also comes with a Mark 19, either a Mark 19 or an M2 machine gun for your consideration. So this one is the tow missile. The idea is the United States was taking a look at how the Soviets are, uh, how they think they're going to conduct warfare. And the Soviets realized that in the plains of Eastern Europe, best thing to do is mass tank assaults. In World War II, the Soviet Union produces about 50,000 or even 58,000 T-30s, T-34. 25,000 of these are turned into T-34-85 that you probably all know and recognize. And so, in later years, the USSR produces the T-54 and 55, again in great quantities. And it comes to the Yom Kippur War, and the Americans see that Soviet-style Syrian army is able to both penetrate and almost entirely shatter the Israeli British-made Centurion lines on the Golan Heights using mass tank assaults, and they realized that their best weapon against tanks is missiles. So they're putting the TOW missiles and the Spike ER ATGM missiles on basically any platform they can think of, and this is an example of that thought of having mass ATGM defenses to deter the enemy from using mass tank assaults. So that's why we have a Humvee ATGM version. Next in line is the more reinforced version of the Humvee. You can see that it has a lot more armor, especially in the doors, and the windows are more thicker against heavy caliber, uh, higher caliber bullets, say from higher from 762. There's also an armored turret to defend the gunner from incoming attacks. Last version of the Humvee that we have here is called the Griswold. It is both heavily armored. It has the ability, unlike this one, which is the AWV. This one, the Griswold, has the ability to carry additional troops in the back. This is an actual functioning M240, so you can have two MGs protecting this vehicle. Would have loved to see a third MG over here, but here they placed the signal jammer antenna. The signal jammer is used to basically jam signals for IEDs. What usually IED makers they do, they connect the battery to a spark on the explosive. So the operator, when he sees a vehicle going next to the IED, he calls the phone that the IED is connected to. That call ignites the IED essentially. So what this thing does is it jams that signal. So when closing in next to the IED, there is actually no signal for the IED, so the call is never received and the IED does not explode. Very nice, very cool piece of tech. Lastly, we have something that is more of an MRAP, or at least it is in the MRAP configuration, but still sort of a light vehicle. It is the M117 Guardian. It's an American armored car, sort of. And it has an actual dual turret with the 50 cal on one side and the Mark 19 on the other. This thing, I don't know if I mentioned it, but this dual turret is actually functionable, so you can actually switch between the Mark 19 and the M240. This is actually a very nice detail, a very cool detail. Thanks to the mod makers for giving us that ability, because I know in other mods most of the time uh, the M240, for instance, would have been uh, a decoration, but here now I'm manning the M240. I can switch turret, and now I'm manning the Mark 19. So really cool, guys. Anyways, we are done with the light vehicle section, and we will be moving on to the logistics section that is up front. Moving into the logistics section, we have mostly a section made up of a single truck, the Iveco M250. This one is general purpose closed back truck. This is the ambulance version. That one is the ammo version. That one is a flatbed. If you want to carry something other other than, say, explosives or weapons or fuel, then you can use it. Possibly weapon lockers and weapon cargo crates that can be used as arsenal. So you can actually use this as a mobile arsenal, so to speak, in multiplayer games. This one is an open top for troop transport. This one is for repairs in the field for any vehicle, possibly even aircraft, I believe, can be repaired by this. This is the heavy flatbed. I believe you can actually, if you're using mods correctly, load a light vehicle or a light armored vehicle on top of this. We will be seeing this vehicle again soon, as the RACS thought, okay, we have a big truck, why not mount an MLRS on it? And they actually did mount an MLRS system on it to create a sort of a improvised version of a HIMARS, which actually works, and we will be seeing it in the future. This one is the Universal Carrier, which is a sort of a truck, sort of, that is mounted on a M113 chassis. This one carries ammo. These things are usually meant to go to places where trucks don't go, like terrain that does not have roads connected to it. This one is the artillery tender. Artillery batteries, from what I know, can be placed almost anywhere. Most of the time, they can also be placed in the middle of fields or in places where the nearest road is, well, it's not very near to their location, and so they need something that can go off-road and deliver the required amounts of explosives and shells. As you can see, plenty of shells that are located here. This one is the general cargo carrier for anything you might want to, anything you want might it you might, sorry, want it to carry that is not either ammo or artillery shells. And this one is the fuel tank, sorry, variant of the carrier. And this one is the heavy fueler, which is mainly used by the RSAF, the Royal Saharani Air Force. So this is the logistics section. Very interesting seeing them using both wheeled and tracked vehicles to uh, transport ammo and personnel across the battlefield. So it's really nice. Now we'll be moving to the infantry, yes, infantry fighting vehicle section and APCs, and see what else we've got there. Coming into the APC section, we have at the start the venerable American M113 APC. Don't know why they're using the very basic unarmored version of this vehicle, as there are plenty of variations to this vehicle. This vehicle probably has the most variations out of anything the United States Army has ever produced in terms of weapon systems that it can carry. Um, but I guess it's what the RACS can afford at the time, so this is what they get. We also have the ambulance version of the M113 and the Mark 19 version, which is identical to that one, but carries a Mark 19 on it for some more explosive firepower. Lastly, we have the M551, 577, sorry. This is the HQ version to establish mobile headquarters in the field. They're using this vehicle. Moving on to in this APC section, we have the BMR, which is a Spanish-made APC. It is a wheeled APC. This one is able to transport personnel over the top as well as inside, so it can carry a lot more soldiers, although I wouldn't recommend riding this to battle on top of the vehicle. It also comes in with a remote weapon system right over there, which is kind of funny because again, this M113, 113, so yes, is completely unarmored. The gunner is completely exposed, and yet here they have a remote weapon system. So why not put this over there? That's just me. That's my fault. Okay. Moving on, this is the HQ version of the BMR. This is the ambulance version. And this is like the Humvee with tow missiles. Like I said, this is the ATGM Tank Hunter version, carrying 4 Spike ER missiles and probably more in the back instead of infantry. Again, this connects to the Western warfare doctrine of hunting down mass tank assaults using ATGMs and thinning their numbers from afar before engaging them with conventional tanks. Again, this was the product of the thought that Soviet tanks were actually superior to the West, and we know that's not true. But still, this is made for meeting up with the T-72s of the SLA uh, for close encounters, how shall we say. And this is the default version of the BMR without the sunshades on top. Again, it can transport people on top, but a lot less comfortable. And lastly, we have the 2 versions of the BMR which are for recon. One is carrying a 90mm cannon, that one. This one is carrying a 25mm Bushmaster. Uh, Bushmaster, I believe it's a chain gun. Both of these again are lightly armored, but carry a more advanced weaponry. So my thought is both of these are recon with both night vision and FLIR. I wouldn't recommend taking these to battles with heavy or more like heavy engagements. However, if it's an infantry skirmish and you're getting one of these into battle, then it's a game changer, absolutely. Just not against fortified infantry with stationary ATGMs or mass infantry carrying RPGs with them. So it's for your discretion. Anyways, we are done with the APC section, and we'll be moving on to the anti-air section of the demonstration. Coming into the anti-air section of the demonstration, we start out with the venerable American VADS. This is a 20mm cannon with a air, sort of very basic sort of anti-air radar for targeting and acquisition of targets for the gunner. Again, it is basic because this vehicle has a very short range of about 2 to 2.5 kilometers. That's great in terms of World War II anti-air, but in the 1960s with jet planes flying at 10 kilometers or 8 kilometers above, that's not very useful. And in the 1980s, as far as I remember, the American Army has produced this version because of the short range of the VADS called the PI VADS with a better, much more upgraded version of the tracking and acquisition radar to extend its range. The idea was that the Soviets were fielding better and better attack helicopters as time went by, essentially. So the American army got scared that it really did not have any self-propelled AA capabilities to shoot down these helicopters. Mostly they're talking about the Hind, which can pop off a hill crest, fire ATGMs at, say, an American convoy, and then go down and disappear. And they didn't have anything that can track that can both detect it trying to engage American vehicles and destroy it before it can fire its ATGMs. So they tried making this thing. It kind of extends the range to about 4 kilometers. This also comes out after the Sergeant York fiasco. If you don't know about that, then it's a vehicle that failed in just about every way possible that the American Army tried to produce based on an M60 chassis. I won't explain it here, just go into Wikipedia and write, I believe it was the M277 or something like that, or M72 or something like that. Just type in Sergeant York tank and you will see what I mean. Last version of the vehicle that we have, it is an Israeli version for the VADS. It's called the Machbet. The Machbet is essentially in Hebrew a baseball bat because it swats out the flies from the air. It sacrificed its side radar for a pod of 4 Stinger missiles, extending the vehicle's range effectively to about 5 kilometers, probably even more. Uh, Again, it does not have the ability to acquire targets on its own, but it does have an upgraded sight right over there. This is a FLIR sight, so this vehicle, unlike those two, has both FLIR and NVGs to attack enemy aircraft. This thing, however, cannot acquire targets on its own, and this is why we have the next vehicle, which is the universal carrier again, but carrying a, I don't know how I'm not going to pronounce that, but it's a American version of a SAM radar, a mobile SAM radar. This thing can connect to those in order to tell them where the enemy is at, but it can also connect to some bigger and better platforms, such as the M727, it's called the M727I Hawk, and its SEM version, which I have no idea what's the difference between these two. I came from armored vehicles when I was in the military. I have no idea about SAM missiles. Sorry. And lastly, we have the Chaparral, which is, I believe, does not need the external radar to lock onto targets. These missiles are mostly for low-flying aircraft, mostly helicopters and possibly UAVs in the near future. So anyways, this is the AA demonstration. These are all the vehicles that the RACS has in that section, and we will be moving on to the armored fist of the demonstration, the armored fist section, sorry, of the demonstration. This is the armored core of Saharani. Coming into the armored core section of the demonstration, we first take a look at both the Scorpion and the Scimitar. These are British-made recon vehicles that excel in that role specifically. This one has a 57 millimeter gun, while this thing has a 20 millimeter autocannon. Both of these, again, lightly armed and lightly armored. I don't believe this, for instance, this tank gun can actually threaten anything that is armored in modern times. Maybe in World War II it was great, but in today's tanks, this is literally not threatening. This is a little more threatening, but for infantry. However, both of these, again, I highly recommend not to use in anything but light skirmishes and low intensity battles, because anything other than 7.62, sorry, will go straight through this plate and either damage the engine or kill the driver. So any explosion, anything at all can knock this tank out. So, however, what I believe, I think these are the fastest tracked vehicles in existence. So use that speed for recon and for keeping an eye on the enemy. They are low profile and very easy to miss and camouflage. They can also, by the way, camouflage themselves with patterns like these two recon vehicles. However, the silhouette is a lot lower, so they are harder to spot. So something to keep your minds on when using them. This is the ASCOD Pizarro. ASCOD stands for Austrian, sorry, Spanish Cooperation Development. This appears to be a modern tracked armored APC, probably with the same capabilities of that of the Warrior or other APCs carrying auto guns and auto cannons on them. The there's a slight something that I don't really understand about this vehicle. Why the gunner does not have NVGs um, in its gun sight. Sorry, but the commander does have NVGs in his gun sight. I don't know why it's like that. I honestly don't understand why. So, dev team, if you're seeing this, talk to me in the comments. Why? Or maybe fix it. I don't know. Something that is also very peculiar about this APC is that hatch over there. I honestly don't understand why have a hatch that is popping out the main body of the APC, especially when, say, you swing around this cannon over here and you can easily strike the barrel on this thing. So why? Just why? Okay, so this is the only armor tracked APC that the RACS has, and we are moving on to the tanks themselves, the ground pounders, the mighty armored fists of the RACS. And first we have the M60A3 main battle tank of American design using a 105 millimeter. You can see the rifling in the barrel. This is the old thought of tank warfare, that these rifles, they are in fact funneling the explosive force behind the shell in order to make it spin, and that way it is thought that the shell would be a lot more accurate by spinning it through the barrel as it comes out of it. Uh, One thing that is a little that is, how should I say, a disadvantage of these tanks is that these riflings degrade over time. So this tank, for instance, needs a lot more barrel replacements than any of those. Something to keep your mind on. You can see, by the way, these two bulges, these two, I'm looking at it right now, there and there. This is the rangefinder for the gunner sight. This used to be mechanical. For instance, in later variations, it is digital, so no need for these bulges to exist on the turret. Last thing I want to showcase is that M2 that is sticking out of the commander's cupola. I believe it is named cupola. English is not my native language, so I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Anyways, the original M60 and M48 had a 762 machine gun in the cupola of the gun of the commander, so he could fire his machine gun while being inside the tank, and he can also target, say, infantry other than what the turret itself is targeting, so they could fire on two simultaneous and different targets. They can fire on two targets simultaneously, even if they're not close together. So it was something, one of the key features of an M60. However, they found that the commander's cupola is higher, is raising both the tank silhouette, which is already quite high, as the M60 is uh, quite a high tank. For instance, for if we're placing it next to, say, the Leopard or the Challenger, or even next when we'll be seeing the Abrams, you will see that it is higher than the Abrams. So the silhouette of the tank is already high, and the cupola was actually an area where if a tank shell hit it, it could penetrate and go down into the turret. So effectively killing the commander on the spot and then exploding inside the turret on the back heads of the gunner and the loader, effectively neutralizing the tank. So it doesn't matter how much armor you had up front in the mantle or in the turret itself or here in the frontal plate. If you manage to shoot the commander's cupola here, the the shell would go inside and kill everyone inside. This is actually something that the American Army has witnessed with the Panzers of World War II, I believe. Uh, I'm not sure if it was the American Army that noticed it, but historians noticed it. And if you played War Thunder, for instance, you would notice it too, that it's actually something that happened. So here they removed that MG inside and placed it outside. One last thing that they also placed it outside is you might be wondering, okay, but the commander, why should it stick his head outside of the tank while in combat? Well, this is because in the Western armored doctrine, the commander already has his head outside the turret. The main difference between the East and West is that in the West, the commander is outside looking for targets, looking for anything that might try to kill him, and directing the gunner to those targets. That at least before we had 360 degrees spinning digital cameras to give us situational awareness. Before that, if you wanted to have situational awareness, or at least see who is trying to kill you, that the turret is not looking at him right now, or identify targets, then you had to stick your head outside the tank in order to see. So the commander is already outside, so why not have an M2 machine gun to use it while the tank is firing? Easy. This one, moving on, this one is the M60A Pantera, an upgraded version of the M60. Main features that I can see is that it has both these RPG nets or RPG cage armor to deter hits of RPG rounds coming into the turret. Let's just showcase here. For instance, if you hit right here where I am pointing, if you're hitting right here, you can, and you penetrate the armor, you can kill both the commander and the gunner, effectively neutralizing this tank. So this is why they have these RPG nets against both RPGs and ATGMs with uh, I don't know if it's a tandem warhead, an eight heat round that tries to that penetrate that uses all of his explosive force to concentrate it in a single spot in order to penetrate the armor. Last thing I can see that is an improvement over the M60 is that twin lens of the gunner sight. This means that this sight is compatible with both NVGs and standard vision. This means that this is actually an upgraded tank sight, probably to increase the chance of first shot kill. And what this thing I believe is, you can see the difference between these, mainly in the gas extractor. This is the standard 120 millimeter gas extractor, which means this is actually a 120 millimeter gun. You cannot see rifling inside, so this means this is a smooth barrel gun that has actually better ballistic characteristics than the rifled one, without the need to change so many barrels, because I believe the rifled barrel needs to be changed after between when I was in service, when I was enlisted, it's about between 250 and 500 shots a barrel needed to be replaced. Here, with this smoothbore barrel, for instance, I know in the IDF, the Merkava Mark IV, a barrel you can use it for 1,000, 2,000 shots uh, without any need to change the barrel. So it solves a lot of logistical problems. It's kind of a small thing that most people who never came from the tanks themselves, they will not realize it, but this difference actually saves a lot of money and a lot of maintenance hours. And lastly, we come to the M1A1 Abrams, which is called here the Saharani Lion. Again, this is a 120 millimeter smoothbore gun carrying a variety of munitions. The original Abrams both had a depleted uranium armor, not made for exports, but yeah, it's a very dense material covering the outer armor plates. The You can see these plates, which are big and wide and angled. This is because a heat shell, just like I said over there, a heat shell tries to concentrate its explosive force into a single point in order to penetrate the armor. And these plates, they do the exact opposite, because research into armor has found that when you're exploding something on a plate, the bigger the plate, it can actually dissipate, it can absorb and dissipate the explosive force a lot better than, for instance, this small area. If it has a larger area to expand upon, then it will, and this effectively counteracts the heat principle of concentrating the explosive force into a single point. So they have a lot harder time concentrating it if the explosive force dissipates faster. So this is the whole idea behind why this turret looks like that. I believe, again, I think, this is something that I read a long time ago. You can see the gunner sights are the advanced version, and there's also an M2 gun for both the commander, and an M240 gun for the gunner. Let's just hop inside. Okay, so we have no interiors for this one. This is the gunner sight. These are the other parts of this demonstration. You can see this is a 120, also having S, I believe it stands for sabot, and the MP80 stands for, well, AT. And as you can see, it also has varying degrees of zoom and NVGs. Very nice. A very good tank indeed. Lastly, we come into the armored recovery vehicle version. This is the M88. It's called here Hercules. The M88 is an armored recovery vehicle standard issue for the American Army based on an M60 chassis. You can see that crane over there that runs along the length of the vehicle. This thing actually extends up where it can then tow disabled and uh, damaged vehicles, tow them back to the back areas, not the backstage, the back areas where you had teams of mechanics and engineers working to bring damaged vehicles back into working order. So how they get these vehicles there in the first place? Well, they use this one. The idea is that the entire operation can be done under fire while the crew is inside and safe from small arms fire. Not very much good against RPGs though, but when this thing shows up on the battlefield, it means that there are other tanks and armored fighting vehicles around it, probably covering it as it removes the damaged tanks from the battlefield. So this is the end section of the armor section, and we'll be moving on to both static weapons and artillery. I'm gonna do this rather quickly. So this is the stationary weapons section. As you can see, not much here to see. Basically M2s, TOWs, a mortar, the Mark 19 on tripod, and the Stinger pod, which fires 2 Stinger missiles at low-flying enemy aircraft that is deployable in the field. Moving on to the actual artillery section, don't mind me running. We start off with the M101. This is a 105 millimeter World War II artillery gun. You've probably seen it if you've seen just about any scene with artillery guns in World War II movies. This is the mainstay artillery piece of the American Army in World War II. This one is the M102. Again, something from, I believe it is World War II. It is also 105 millimeter, but carrying, unlike that one, this one is carrying the standard American breech with the anvil right over there. This gun chamber or the bullet chamber or whatever it is called in English, I don't know, is essentially identical to what the M60 has when the gunner loads the shell. This huge bulk that you see here that we call the anvil lowers down, presses the shell inside, and it is automatically goes up, locking up the chamber, the breech essentially, and enabling the gun to fire. This is an even bigger version. This is the M114. I believe it is a 155 or 120 millimeter howitzer. This one You've probably seen it in strategy games of World War II, possibly in mod for Company of Heroes. This is the M1. This is the M1. It is called M1. I don't know what's the deal with American equipment being called M1. Just tell me in the comments below what's the deal with it, okay? This thing, if you do not know, it is in real world is called the Long Tom 155 millimeter artillery. It is the biggest land-based artillery the United States Army has produced in World War II. And this is the short barrel version of it, which I suppose it to fire close ranges, maybe? This is the M1982, which is a more modern stationary artillery gun. You can see it has a uh, the barrel, unlike in those where the recoil is being absorbed directly uh, to the vehicle. Here the barrel slides back with recoil absorbers. You can see that giant recoil absorber right over there. Uh, and actually there's two of them. Let me see if I can lower the gun so we can take a better look at it. Gunner. No, this is as low as it gets. You can see it can fire a variety of ammunition. I'm not even sure what most of it means. Guided heat, I believe. Heat and DPISM is the standard ammo, maybe? I don't know. Tell me in the comments what are these uh, shell types. Illuminating is illuminating, of course. Smoke is smoke. Okay, let's get out. Yeah, okay, so there. You can see those two recoil absorbers right over there where the gun slides back and these absorb the recoil, and a huge muzzle breaker right over there to reduce recoil, unlike those two. Lastly, we have in the regular artillery pieces, this is the SPAG or self-propelled artillery gun, the M109A6 Paladin. Again, able to fire basically all of the variations of shells that the M1982 can fire, only that this thing can also move on its own. And the next in line is the venerable M270 MLRS, which I don't think I need to explain a lot about. And this is the M250, or this is the M430 LS MLRS, which is what I talked about in the logistics section, where they took the heavy flatbed truck and made it into a sort of a high miles uh, of their own. By the way, the MLRS can also switch between between its pod of 6 MLRS missiles and fire a, I believe it's called the ATACS, sort of a ground ballistic missile developed for this MLRS platform that can hit the target of out of about 250 kilometers, maybe. Sort of a because America does not have the vast array of missile batteries that the USSR has, instead relying on air power more than rocket and artillery. So this is why there's a sort of a disparity between the arsenals of USSR and the arsenals of the United States Army. That the United States Army essentially does not have a mobile version of, say, the Scud. Anyway, so we have finished with the artillery section of this demonstration, and we'll be moving to the big chunk, which is the Air Force. Uh, so I'll see you there. Alright, so now we have reached the air demonstration, or the air section, and this is a big chunk of what this mod has to offer. So it's gonna take a while for us to get through all of this. Now let's get going. And starting off with the smallest and the lightest to the biggest and the most heavy. I sort of arranged it like that. So, uh, starting off with the MD500 Defender. You might know it as the Pony or the Little Bird. Here it's called the Angry Bird. This is the RH6, RAH6, sorry. This thing is the most up-armed version of this vehicle that I have ever seen. It has a gunner sight sticking out of the pilot's area to probably to accommodate the guidance equipment necessary for tow missiles. It has twin 20mm autocannons over there, and it has 4 ATGMs and 2 Stinger missiles. So essentially, it can engage in any sort of target uh, other than, say, jet planes, maybe. And if you're flying this really well, you can be actually God on the battlefield if you know what you're doing and you're good at flying this vehicle, which not everyone is good at. But it is the most up-armored version I've ever seen of this vehicle. I don't know if it can actually exist and support so many so many heavy weapons, but if it does, tell me in the comments. This is the UH-1 Iroquois, also known as the Huey, transport helicopter used mainly by the American Army in the Vietnam War and in other West affiliated armies. As you can see, the cockpit is very wide, and this forms a problem because most of these were also fitted with weapons on the sides to strafe enemy positions. However, the cockpit is entirely unarmored. This glass is not armored in the slightest, so it was very easy for NVA and Viet Cong insurgents to fire at the vehicle, and this is the first place that actually took fire. So it was relatively easy for them to shoot down the pilot, and once you shot the pilot, the helicopter is going to crash. So yeah, this is an upgraded version of it, featuring 2 pods of FFARs, again to be able to more effectively destroy entrenched positions and even light vehicles. Not that I would use it in that capacity, as it is very fragile, and the Arma AI knows very well how to shoot unarmored helicopter pilots. I don't know how they know it, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it and they're doing it very well. So take care when using these, okay? Next up, we have the SA 330 Puma. I believe it is a British helicopter, medium helicopter. This is the SAR, or Search and Rescue variant. This is the standard military variant. The sad thing about this is that whoever is nearest to the door will be the door gunner. This version does not have any weapons attached to it at all. So It doesn't matter what they're carrying. Could be carrying bolt action rifles and could be carrying machine guns. The guys next to the door will be the door gunners and will effectively be the helicopter's only offensive capability. This is the medevac version of the Puma, and this is the uh, gunship version of the Puma. One key thing to note here is that it has a 30 millimeter cannon right over there and a new gun sight right over here. It also has 8 ATGMs and FFARs. However, what this gun gives it the ability that other gunships don't is the ability to strafe from the sides. So I talked about how helicopters, when firing FFARs, you had to face the enemy. And when you're facing the enemy, this means that the enemy is looking at you and is firing automatic machine guns at your helicopter. And this entire cockpit is unarmored. This means that you're putting yourself in great danger in order to assault the enemy while being a very obvious flying target. What this thing enables the crew to do, however, is to fly from, say, left to right while attacking infantry and enemies from the sides. So you're flying not straight at the enemy, which gives you an advantage because you're a harder target to hit when flying from the sides. I don't know how to demonstrate this, but think of it like this. If I'm the enemy right now, I'm trying to attack this helicopter. The helicopter flies from there to there while attacking me. I'm having a lot harder time attacking that helicopter because I have to try and predict where my bullet will meet the helicopter. However, if I'm trying to attack that helicopter from here, it's a lot easy because he's coming straight at me. So, kinda, uh, it's a kinda better survivability for the pilots when attacking enemies, I believe. I hope. I'm seriously hoping that this will somehow improve the pilot's survivability. And last thing, in the attack platform, we have the venerable Cobra. This is the AH-1SY Saharani Cobra. Comes with I believe it is a 30 millimeter autocannon, FFARs, and TOW missiles, or Spike extended range missiles, maybe. Either way, ATGMs. And now, I talked about when this thing comes to strafe me and how easy I have, how much easy it is for me to to fire in this general direction, and I will probably hit something. Now take a look at this. Will I have the same easy time, so to speak, trying to fire at this one? No, I won't. This is the original idea behind why the pilot and the co-pilot are sitting one in front of the other and not side by side, to make the helicopter a lot thinner at the front and making it a much harder target for for anti-air gunners to shoot at. It is more nimble and it is thinner, presenting a smaller target for AA guns to shoot at while he's strafing them. Come to think of it, it's a very good idea actually. Good job to the Americans who designed it. Lastly, we have in the helicopter section, this is the venerable CH-53 53 Sea Stallion, a huge brick to fly, and it takes a lot of skill to fly this effectively. It generates so much lift that you literally cannot. You're 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 feeling like you're inside a tornado if you're trying to uh, come to this helicopter while these rotor blades are still in motion and doing. If you felt it, then you know what I'm talking about. Uh, Very hard thing to fly, but can transport a lot of infantry, all supplies, or even originally in the real life version, it can also carry in one or two jeeps, like the World War II jeeps inside of it. So very nice. And we're coming into the plane section and the assault planes. Starting out with the attack planes, this is the venerable again American Skyhawk, which was an absolute dogfighter, and the American version for many MiGs. I know that a lot of MiGs, both in Vietnam and in the Arab-Israeli conflicts, many MiGs were shot down because of the Skyhawks. They are also able to attack ground targets, as you can see, and also have AA missile capabilities, a very modular platform. However, this thing is subsonic, which means that it cannot fly faster than Mach 1. But still, for the role that it is, uh, the role that it is filling, I don't think it needs to. Especially in this game where many pilots don't fly beyond Mach 1. This is the F-16 CJ called Saharani Viper. The Saharani Viper is built entirely to make objects that fly, puncture, and die. That's the main role that this fighter is filling. To this end, it has as you can see, four different anti-air missiles, both infrared and radar targeting, and it is built entirely for air superiority and keeping the skies clear. The next version is the Strike Viper. This one is built more for ground combat as well as air combat, a general purpose fighter bomber, so to speak. One thing that the Strike Viper has that the Saharani Viper does not is, as you can see over there, uh, this is an additional radar, I believe, and this thing is a ground attack pod, which enables the plane to both track and self laser designate targets for laser guided munitions, as well as track ground targets in those cool videos that you always see about ground attack planes bombing targets in infrared. So there's that. Lastly, we have the Wild Weasel. The Wild Weasel is actually a unit that was formed in Vietnam. The idea was that there will be a plane that baits the enemy to open up the radars, where a specialized weapon can then be deployed to track and to guide itself on the beam of the radar. So long as the radar is open, the weapon will guide itself on this beam into the source and effectively destroy the radar and destroy the SAM site's ability to acquire and track uh, air targets essentially. These are sorry, the They are called the harm. Sorry, yes, the harm missiles. These are anti-radiation missiles designed specifically when the radar is locked onto this plane, that they will guide themselves and knock it out. So, by the way, the unofficial motto, since the unit suffered catastrophic losses over Vietnam, the Wild Weasel planes usually were upgraded with more advanced electronic warfare suites to give them some chance or better chances at evading and not getting shot down so much. But the unofficial motto of the unit, the Wild Weasel, by the way, is "You gotta be shitting me." And I shit you not, this is real. So next up we have the Mirage 3, more like an air superiority fighter than most. It is a French-made air superiority fighter. Let's go inside. We have sidewinders, we got AMRAAMs, and we have this thing, the Matra R530B AAM. I don't know what that thing is. I really don't know what that thing is. Oh, and it has an eject seat. Okay, that's nice. Anyways, I don't know what that thing is. Write me in the comments down if you know what this thing, what this thing is, what it does. I don't know. So tell me in the comments. This thing is the Mirage 5, sorry, an upgraded version of the Mirage 3, I believe with better engines, and the nose is different. You can see the nose is a bit different, probably to house more advanced radar and avionics systems. It's more also, you can see that it can perform the role of a fighter bomber better than the Mirage 3. And besides that, I believe the flight characteristics are more of the same. And lastly, in the attack section, is the Mohawk. This is a slow, low-flying cast platform built to attack enemy ground units. It has 20 millimeter cannons over here and over here, the twin of them. Uh, I don't know why you would use it, because again, this thing needs to strafe the enemy, and it's doing it in extremely low speeds, making it an extremely easy target for anyone with assault rifles and machine guns and anything bigger than a 7.62 machine gun to knock this out of the air. However, this thing carries huge bombs. As you can see, this bomb is huge. I believe it is a 1,000 pound or 1,000 kilo bomb. You can see it has 4 FFIR uh, pods, giving it 64, I believe it is 64 missiles and 2 napalm canisters. So this thing can pack quite a punch, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. It's really does not worth it. Okay, moving into bigger things, we have the Hawkeye, which is sort of the Navy's version of. It is used in the U.S. Army primarily as in its naval variant as an AWACS airplane with that huge radar disc on top, able to communicate and coordinate complex military operations that require many units to work together. So this thing is a sort of a mobile flying command post. I know that the IAF used in Operation Mole Cricket 18 back in 1982. They used this one as a sort of a wild weasel, capacity. However, this one was actually commanding a fleet of unarmed, unmanned drones. They did what the Wild Weasel does, only that there were planes in the air with anti-radiation and remote-guided bombs and missiles, and this thing commanded a fleet of UAVs that actually, back in 1982, nobody knew what an UAV is. It was experimental technology, and they used flight of these to bait the Syrians who thought these are actual IAF planes, to open up the radars, who were shot and got bombed in turn, effectively silencing the the whole Syrian anti-air forces that were guarding the eastern part of Lebanon, giving the IAF free reign and free air superiority to do whatever they wanted over Lebanon in the first Lebanon War, also known as Operation Shlom Galil, or Operation Peace for the Galil, I believe it is called in like that. It is a more of a straight translation. It's probably not called that way in English. I don't know. So this is the venerable Hercules transport airplane, capable of carrying, I believe, up to 100 equipped infantrymen and tons of supply, and probably some light vehicles inside as well. You probably know this vehicle by its uh, ghost gunship variant, spooky gunship variant, where these windows got replaced with a 20 millimeter chain gun, a 30 millimeter autocannon, and a 100 millimeter cannon over there. By the way, I really wanted that version to be in this mod as well. Devs, if you're looking at this video, please give us also the spooky version. It's so cool. I really want it. So, uh, okay. Next up, we have the Orion. The Orion is, as you can see, we're in the, by the way, in the naval variations of the Air Force. We have the Orion again. This one is supposed to be a submarine hunter, originally a submarine hunter. You can see that submarine radar, I believe, over there. However, this thing can also carry anti-ground munitions as well as anti-ship munitions. You can see the AGM-84. This is an anti-ship munition. Probably the Harpoon, maybe. Or maybe it's that one over there. However, you can see it can also carry bombs, and it even has the ability to carry 8 AGM Mavericks right over there. I wouldn't be using it as a bomber. This plane was not built to be used as a bomber. However, it can carry bombs for some unknown reason. So if you're feeling goofy, you can try it. This is the Skyhawk in naval variant, like I said before. The Puma. Let's run a little bit. This is the gunship variant of the Puma. And lastly is a special variant for the Navy, which carries, I believe these are either Exocet or, no, sorry, these are Sea Skua. Don't know who makes up these names. Like, really, dude, what does Sea Skua means? I don't know. But anyways, this is an anti-ship missile. You can see that there's a gunner sight right over there and extended radar over here to accommodate for the usage of anti-ship missiles with extended range. Um, and this is essentially all of the airplanes and helicopters of the RACS, and we'll be now move shortly to. You can see those soldiers in the background. So this is the uniform and gun demonstration of the actual boots on the ground and the fighting men of the RACS. So I'll see you there. Okay, we have reached the demonstration where I'm going to showcase the uniforms and the guns, with the weapons and the armor of the actual boots on the ground people, the fighting men of the RACS, starting out with the first division, which I believe, according to their uniform, is situated in the south of the southern Saharani area. This guy, as you can see, they are carrying the G3 battle rifle. This is not a. This can be an automatic rifle. However, this one is firing a 7.62, and it is better in a single round configuration. You can see this guy is carrying a Stinger on its back. This is both the infantry and the sort of again light infantry variant. Only that this guy carrying the Lao missile on his back, giving it light anti-tank capabilities. This is the engineer, this is the grenadier. These, by the way, are the officers, let's see, colonel, commander, and the infantry, which are both for off-duty and for uniforms used in ceremonies, if you're feeling like it. Moving on, we have both the machine gunner with the M240 and the medium machine gunner with the M249. Both the platoon sergeant and the scout got the ACOG and the RACO or the ARCO sights, and nobody else does. Don't know why everyone else is with iron sights in this division. What the hell, guys? This is the sharpshooter with the M M24 Remington. And this guy, lastly, this is the marksman, by the way, which is the same gun as the platoon sergeant, which is the same gun as the scout. So, again, what the hell? And this guy is the poorest one of them all. He needs to carry the entire javelin system on his back. Poor guy is the heavy AT. Okay, this is the 2nd Infantry Division. These are the paratroopers, most likely stationed in the northern part of the Saharani uh, island, South Island, maybe. These guys are carrying a different weapon. They are carrying the Galil, which is an sort of Israeli-made copy of the AK. The mechanism inside is virtually the same. Even you can see you can see this handle. This handle is the safe. The more you lower it is for single round. From here, no. From here maybe, no. Only if I actually hold the gun, then you will be able to see it. But you can see this. So this is the safe. It goes down for auto and goes up for safe mode, so that your weapon won't be able to fire. Only that this rifle uses 5.56 because the IADF uses mostly M16s, so it was not considered a smart idea to have an entire new assault rifle that does not use the stockpiles of existing ammo. So, yeah. This is the paratrooper AA, the paratrooper guard, the AT light, the AT heavy. This is the RKT, which has the Lao again. By the way, the difference between this guy and this guy is that this one carries the AT4 missile on his back and not the Lao launcher. medic, marksman with the ARCO again, grenadier, which has no grenade launcher because the Galil is not compatible with grenade launchers anyway. This is the third infantry division, the Mountaineers. They are located in the middle of the Saharani Island. This is where they're stationed. Again, G3s all around, but these guys also have reflex sights, so at least they have that. And this MG carries a huge ass sight. I don't know why, because why would you use this sight for an MG? Are you White Feather? No? Oh, okay. I tried. This one is probably the 4th Infantry Division, maybe? The Cavalry, which is an sort of a air mobile infantry division. These are the Royal Marines. They are using a different. If this is the G3, then this is probably something else. Looks like an elongated version of the MP5. This is the Marine Raiders. The Marine Raiders themselves, though, they are using. This is the Royal Marine Marksmen, by the way. The Marine Raiders, they're using the MP5s and have M249s machine gunners and automatic riflemen that are using exactly the same gun. Don't know why that is. Key feature that the Marines have that the other infantry divisions don't use is the recoilless rifleman. This is how. This is a Skyhawk pilot, but most of the pilots look exactly the same. These are helicopter pilots, CSAR, which are combat search and rescue. The main difference is that these guys carry MP5s and use an M60A4. I don't know where he got that. This is a weapon for the museums, not for use in today's modern battlefield, and yet he's using it. This is the Navy uh, uniforms for both sailor boat operators and operators on frigates and large vessels. This is the ground crew of air bases, the uniform. This is the SIS, which is the Special Service, sort of a FBI of the uh, Royal Army Corps of Saharani. You can see they're using Galils, and this one is also using a, a silenced Uzi. So yeah, they also have the FBI in it. This is the National Guard. You can see the difference is that the National Guard have no plate carriers. These guys are unarmored in the slightest. The most amount of armor they're carrying is their helmet. Like really, this is the National Police uniform. This is an armored police carrying the FNC, which I believe is a probably Finnish rifle. That again is a sort of a copy of the AK mechanism. I believe again. I'm not sure. Comment below. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Now we're reaching the area of the special forces units. The recon is a sort of a Delta Force offshoot or variant of the sort of a copycat of the Delta Force is the recon. Sorry, so this is what I meant in the original. This guy is the heavy sniper using the M82A1 Barrett 50 caliber anti-material rifle. Yeah, I know it was long. It wasn't long to say it, and yeah, this guy can take out someone from 1.5 to kilometers away from with ease. Just look at that huge muzzle breaker. Damn. This one is the marksman using the M24 only with suppressor only. Maybe, yeah, this is the M24. Other guys are using the M4 submod or M416, which is an HNK variant, but designed to make the M4 platform a lot more reliable. So you can actually pick it up from a bucket of water, take it out, shoot, and it will shoot, or in a bucket full of sand, take out the weapon, pull the trigger, and it will still fire. So it's a lot more reliable. This is the Grenadier. This is the M60 with the machine gun with silencer, and the platoon sergeant. And this is the commando, which is sort of a Green Berets uh, SEAL team, maybe. Again, with all the M4 submod that you need. This is the SRS 25 for the marksman, which makes it unique, and the heavy sniper again, and the Fusiliers, which I have absolutely no idea what their role is, but this is either the SV90 or the AWP. I am not sure. No, it's not Galil Olive Drab. No. Okay. So this is the end of this section of the demonstration, and I will see you in the next section where I will tell you farewell. So this wraps up all of the content and the stuff that I wanted to show you today of the RACS mod. Again, it's a huge mod and kind of the mods that add a lot of way more content than most mods in the Arma community add. Um, it's a great mod, both in attention to details, in the quality of the assets that it provides, and also in the quality. So with great emphasis on even small things like in the airplanes and whatnot. A very overall a very recommended mod to use. So go ahead to the workshop. Keep in mind that both the RACS and SLA take combined almost 5 gigabytes of hard disk, because it's a pretty big mod. It's a big boy, but it is recommended and it's worthwhile to go and get it. So I hope you found this showcase entertaining or at least interesting. If not, tell me in the comments below, and I will keep that in mind when I'm doing the second part, when we take a look at the SLA, the Saharani Liberation Army. Um, Also, if you're not subscribed, then do go ahead and click that subscribe button. It helps me a lot. And I will do the second part as fast as I can. But, you know, being a dad, so no promises. And that is it for me for today. So, thanks for seeing this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.